Good evening, everybody, and welcome into that one show, the greatest show on the planet Earth, the Hayden Coker Show, presented to you by Senator Les Bell. Senator Les Bell, the best man that I know, the best man that he knows. And ladies and gentlemen, we are kicking off 2026 in a fantastic way here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Pell City. Just a lovely, lovely night. We've got ESPN on tonight. We've got the college football playoff about to start here in about roughly 45 minutes here. We have Ole Miss and Miami playing tonight. That's going to be a fun one, a fun matchup regardless of who wins. Now, I do have my winner, which will be revealed shortly. Not now. We don't do that, okay? Especially at the semifinal. We don't reveal up until minutes notice, okay? Minutes notice is what we're going to do tonight. But yeah, no, guys, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to keep it a little bit condensed because we've got to get home. We've got to watch this game. But Hayden, you're at Buffalo Wild Wings. Watch the game at Buffalo Wild Wings. This is where I have to kind of sit back. I have to digress from my talking point of, man, come watch the games at Buffalo Wild Wings. I would love to, okay? I've got to be home by a certain time tonight, guys. See, I might be 23 years old, 24 years old in about 6 months, but I have a bedtime, okay? I have a bedtime, and I don't care what anybody says. I like to be in bed on time, so I'm going to go home, and yes, I am going to watch the game. I'm going to watch the game in the comfort of my own bed, okay? It's just how it is. You know, fun fact, I used to – let me hydrate with some Buffalo Wild Wings sweet tea. Here's a little fun fact. I used to have bed sheets. Well, I still have bed sheets. I used to have a certain kind of bed sheets that had wiener dogs on them. And so that just kind of shows my love for the wiener dog community. I do love wiener dogs. Yeah, let's add the second word of dogs in there. But yeah, no, man, this is the college football playoff, and I'm super excited for it, man. But yes, I will be watching it in the comfort of my own home. Now, let's really take a step into it. We've got Miami, Ole Miss. This is going to be a fun matchup tonight. Tomorrow night we have Indiana and Oregon. Kurt Cignetti has taken a Hoosier team that nobody even talked about 4 years ago, aside from the year that Penix was there and they were good. But nobody talked about this team 3 years ago. Now everybody's talking about the Indiana Hoosiers. Why is everybody talking about the Indiana Hoosiers? Well, for one, Kurt Cignetti took a team that had not sniffed 10 wins aside from that season. I think they only won 9 wins that year. I think they won 9 games that year. Yeah, this is a team that has not sniffed relevancy in years. And Kurt Cignetti brings this team to relevancy. This is arguably one of the worst football programs in America for 100 years. I mean, that's how bad this football program was. Now let's take a look at what Kurt Cignetti has done. He came in here, he instilled that, hey, guess what? You don't think I win? Google me, all right? I win games. That's exactly what Kurt Cignetti said. He went into the Indiana arena in, I guess it was halftime of a basketball game. Screw Purdue. They stink. Basically what he said. The same thing about Ohio State. He just did it. The same thing about Purdue and Michigan. So this is a guy who knows how to win. This is a guy who came in. He knew how to win prior. He knows how to win now, and he's instilled what he knows into this program, and that's why they are where they are today, because they are one of the best programs in America right now. And you can't argue with that just because of where Kurt Cignetti has this team. Okay, he's going out into the portal and he's turned this Indiana laughing stock into a national dominance and perennial power, if you will. So the fact that he's done that within 2 years, he's got this team, aside from tomorrow night, you know, depending on whatever happens tomorrow night, he will have this team in the national championship. So I think it's phenomenal to see. I think it's one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, one of the best turnarounds, the best turnaround that anybody has ever seen in all of college football. This is just insane. And people can shout from the rooftops. Excuse me, I got the hiccups, man. People can shout from the rooftops about how, you know what, it's the transfer portal, it's easier now. It doesn't matter. What Kurt Cignetti did in a span of 2 years is the most impressive thing you will ever see. Now, if you're dialed into college football, other people aren't going to, value it. But you get what I'm saying. Like, this is one of the most important and incredible things that you will ever see when it comes to the world of college football. Now, moving on. So Indiana. They play Oregon tomorrow night, okay? But tonight we have Miami and Ole Miss. Miami uber aggressive on defense. They're just one of the best teams defensively in the nation. This is where we've got to kind of sit back. We've got to take it all in when it comes to Ole Miss. Offensively, are they going to be able to move the ball down the field on this Ole Miss team? I think so. I don't think they will have much of a problem with it. Maybe late in the game, that becomes a thing. That becomes something that is well known to everybody watching the game. But early on, I think that defensively, Ole Miss is going to be tested, and that is when Ole Miss has to step up defensively. Their front seven, especially. Mark Fletcher, running back for Miami, he is just extremely dominant when it comes to running the ball. Just an extremely aggressive running back. The guy, I don't even know how to explain it. I was watching their last game they played against Ohio State. The guy would just bulldoze dudes over. He'd put his head down, and he would move the rock. And that's exactly what a team like Miami needs. That's what they've gotten with Mark Fletcher. It's been more, I would say it's been more on showcase toward the end of the year. But now in the playoffs, everybody is actually seeing it, and everybody is seeing what Mark Fletcher is able to do. I'm not saying he wasn't a good running back at the beginning of the year, because he was. What I am saying is that the dude is an insane running back. He's good. He's aggressive. He's athletic. And I think that with Mark Fletcher, obviously it increases Miami's chances to win the game, but it just instills us. How do I say this? It just instills an energy of, I'll say it like this, violence. Okay, violence on the offensive side of the football, violence on the defensive side of the football. You saw it in the game against Ohio State, just extremely aggressive defensively, a hard-hitting team. The linebackers dominant, man. The defensive line dominant, and that's where I think that Ole Miss may struggle tonight. You saw Ole Miss's O-line not play the best against the Georgia defensive line, who, yes, they have been good against when it comes to pass rush. But they aren't one of those Georgia teams that you look at and say, hey, you know what? That's one of the better defensive rushes from a Georgia team that I've ever seen. Like 2 or 3 years ago when we would see that, 2021, 2022, 2023, that's not necessarily where we've been over the last few years. Now it's more of, this is a Georgia team that can get it done defensively, but they don't pop off the stat sheet. Not even the stat sheet. They just don't pop off the TV whenever you're watching them, like they did a few years ago. Jordan Carter was there. So, Nakobe Dean, like all those guys, they were insane. And I'm not saying this defense from Georgia is any different. Like, it's a good Georgia defense. Obviously, it's not the same, so I guess it is a little bit different. It's still a good Georgia defense, a solid defense, but it's not the one from years past, okay? But no, tonight is about tonight is about Ole Miss and Miami. And Miami is just one of those teams that I expect for them to come out defensively, and I expect them to set the tone. What I mean by that is, so for instance, let's take I've got a stat for you, and I'm gonna get this one up here for you. So 8.5 points per game is what this Miami team is giving up offensively. Other teams they're putting up 8.5 points per game, guys. That's in the playoffs. Okay, I get it. It's 2 games. Okay, it's Texas A&M. It's Ohio State, guys. Let me just repeat what I just said. Texas A&M and Ohio State, Miami held those guys to a combined average of 8.5 points per game that they give up. That's insane, okay? That is insane. A&M's had a good defense, A&M's had a good offense all year. Ohio State, they've had a good offense all year. Now, you can say that these guys haven't been tested all year, and that's fine. I understand where you're coming from. But what you need to understand is this Miami defense is uber aggressive and one of the best in the nation. And I think that everybody is sort of kind of catching on to that. But now it's time to certainly pay attention, because tonight they're going to be tested by an extremely good Ole Miss offense. It is extremely high-powered. You look at Trinidad Chambliss, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. By the way, if you watch the show all year, the Hayden Coker show has said that Trinidad Chambliss is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He said it. Rewind the tape. Miami's impressive, man. Miami's extremely impressive, and I expect for them to win this game tonight. I do. I think that Miami wins. Miami is currently favored by 3.5 points. It's actually kind of funny. So Miami and Indiana are both favored by 3.5. I will take Miami in this game. I think that Trinidad Chambliss and this Ole Miss offense, they're going to put up their points. But here's my thing, and I would love to see Ole Miss and this Pete Golding-led team go to the College Football Playoff Championship game. I would love that. With all my heart, I want to see that happen. I'm a big Pete Golding fan. I didn't necessarily think that the Pete Golding hire was going to be a great hire. Now, obviously they win one game in the playoffs, or excuse me, 2 games in the playoffs, and now it's people are like, oh, you can't really say that. Obviously, it's a long career. I'm not judging. I'm not saying he's a good or bad head coaching hire right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, so far with how he's handled the whole situation with Lane Kiffin leaving, with some of his coordinators and staff leaving for LSU because they have to go. Now, this isn't necessarily a Lane Kiffin thing. This isn't necessarily an Ole Miss thing. This is a college football dilemma that we've kind of got to figure out. And multiple people will tell you that coaches should probably not be able to leave until after the season is already completely finished, which I sort of agree with. But on another, from a different standpoint, you have to understand that the college football schedule and the calendar is the way it is for a reason. And we can get into that a whole other day because we've got more important things to focus on tonight. But when it comes to tonight with Miami and Ole Miss, and by the way, Pete Golding, phenomenal job with how he's handled this whole situation. And I hope that he goes out there and I hope he wins the whole thing. I just don't see that happening personally. I would love for that to happen. The guy is just a great personality. His persona is amazing. He's just fun. He's just fun. He looks like one of those coaches that would be fun to hang out around, fun to drink some sweet tea with. So I don't know, man. I think that Pete Golding is amazing, and I hope the best for him. But tonight, I think that Miami and this defense from Miami is just going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those defenses that is just a little unstoppable. And I think that Ole Miss, while they do put up their points at some point, Miami will eventually get the win, and Ole Miss is going to get tired offensively. Okay, defensively, Ole Miss as well. They've got to get things figured out on that on the defensive line. Miami, with the interior of Miami's offensive line, it's great. It's stout. It's super aggressive. And they're good. They're large human beings on that offensive line for Miami. But when it comes to this Miami offense, you've got to figure out a way to stop that run game. Mark Fletcher was really good against Ohio State. Carson Beck was pretty good against Ohio State throwing the ball. Okay, now he wasn't one of those guys that I thought that when he was out there it just changed the game. I mean, he went out there and he won the game for him. He made some really good throws, but that's not why Miami won the game. Miami won the game because of their defense. Keontae Scott with picked off a screen pass from Julian Sayed and took it to the house. Okay, that defense for Miami is what won the game for the Hurricanes against the Ohio State Buckeyes. That's the put it on the front page of the newspaper. That's what happened. Okay, Miami's stifling defense wins game against Ohio State in the quarterfinals. That's just how it is. And now we're in the semifinals, and we're talking about 4 incredibly amazing football teams just going at it. Okay, you look at Indiana, who's just come together as a team, and they're just one of the more well-rounded football teams in America. Okay, you look at Oregon, they're really solid as well. Look at Miami, look at Ole Miss. These are 4 really great teams in college football, and they're in the semifinals right now. And they've made it this far for a reason. Now, people can talk about the first round bye curse all they want to. I think this is most important here when we discuss this. I think you just need to take a look at the teams who have won those games and just give them credit. You look at what Ole Miss has done. Look what they did against last week against Georgia. For instance, let's take a look at one of the other quarterfinal games, Miami and Ohio State. And what a game that was. Okay, look at the other side of the bracket, Indiana and Alabama. Indiana was the first team to break that curse. That was the quarterfinal, the first round bye curse. Okay, so they break that. Okay, but now then you go to the top half of the bracket, Oregon and Texas Tech. Texas Tech gets that first round bye. Oregon goes up there, they win the game. Not only do they win the game, but they beat Texas Tech and held them scoreless. That's impressive, man. That's impressive. Okay, and that's all I really have to say about that. There's not much to say other than about Oregon's performance defensively than impressive. That's kind of all you can say about that one. You can just kind of leave it there. Texas Tech offense was abysmal. You could say that. Barrett Morton did not play good. I thought he's a lot better quarterback than what he showed in the Orange Bowl. It just was not. It just and I hate to say it like this. It just was not Barrett Morton's greatest game at all. And I wish it was because I think Barrett Morton is a great quarterback. He's a phenomenal guy, phenomenal quarterback, but it just was not. It's not. Now, all right, so Miami and Ole Miss, I have Miami winning the game. All right, kind of throwing it back a little bit. I think Miami wins the game, okay? This is the team that is just, like I said, extremely aggressive defensively. And I think they go out there, they assert dominance early. Like I said, Miami scores. Ole Miss is going to score. They're going to put up their points. Trinidad Chambliss is going to do his thing, much like he did in the last game against Georgia. Okay, he's going to be running for his life. He might have a moment out there too that says, "Hey man, why did Trinidad Chambliss not win the Heisman this year?" I can't tell you that. Okay, I was one of those who said, I asked some people around me. It's kind of what I was saying was I thought that Trinidad Chambliss should have been at the Heisman ceremony. I didn't say he should have won it. No, that's not what I'm saying. But the guy played like a Heisman winner. Fernando Mendoza, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the nation right now. People will say it's arguable, but people say you can argue either way. But in my opinion, I think that Fernando Mendoza, with how he played this year, with the trajectory of look at how it was early on in the year, he really caught on mid-season, and everybody started to pay attention to the one and only Fernando Mendoza. But people don't pay attention enough to how important that Indiana team was. Not just Fernando Mendoza, not just the running backs and Hemby and Black, but how that team was as a whole. Offensive line, defensively, it was just outstanding in every single category, and they showed it last week against Alabama in a stunning defeat by the Crimson Tide. I thought that Alabama was going to lose the game, but I thought they would cover. And Indiana went out there and absolutely embarrassed the Crimson Tide. And now people are calling for Kalen DeBoer's head. Okay, after he won an away game in the college football playoff against Oklahoma. Say whatever you want against Oklahoma. They went out there and won. Oklahoma beat Alabama in the regular season in Alabama's house. Look at what Alabama did. They returned the favor. They went over into Galen Memorial Stadium, and they got it done. They won. They won that game, and they were down 17-0 at one point. They go on a 34-10 run. It's just how that works. I say 34-10 run. They outscored Oklahoma in the second, or in quarters 2 through 4, 34-10. That's just how that works, man. And I don't necessarily know why people are calling for the firing. Maybe it's because he's never going to get Alabama to where they were with Nick Saban. I don't know, and it is what it is. It's different. We'll sit there. We will sit back. We will enjoy ourselves. We will let everybody else delegate that and argue about it. Because I'm not going to argue about it. Your opinion is yours, and that's fine. But that's just how it is. You need to go check out Daniel Welch, Bobby Welch, and Dawson Welch over at Steel 174 in Steel, Alabama. You can check it out. Check them out on Facebook at Steel 174. That is STEELE 174. Steel 174. Those guys that can get it done, they're phenomenal building houses, phenomenal construction company. If you need a house built, call those guys at Steel 174. You can find them on Facebook. They are still strong, still reliable, still 174. It's just how those guys work over there. But man, let me tell you something. Oh man, that sweet cheese from Buffalo Wild Wings is good. It's good. It's good, man. It's the Hayden Coker Show presented to you by Senator Lance Bell. Senator Lance Bell, the best man that I know, the best man that he knows. Now, it's one thing to say something, and it's one thing to stand behind it. It's another thing for the very thing that you said to take place. Okay, and guys, I won't lie to you. My playoff predictions have not been up to par this year. They haven't, and I apologize to my fans. I apologize to my supporters. I let everybody down. I understand that. I get it, man. I understand. I let everybody down. So thank you for all the support. But now's the time to absolutely, brutally kill me in the comments. In the comments, not in real life, of course, but in the comments. I understand. I messed up, man. I messed up. I picked Texas A&M over Ohio State in the quarterfinals. Texas A&M didn't beat Miami. I picked Oklahoma over Alabama. I picked Texas Tech over Oregon. I picked Georgia to win the national championship game. And Ole Miss beat them last week. So where do I go from here? Do I just give this thing up, man? I don't know if I should just give this thing up. Should I? I think I need to change my trajectory of how this thing goes. Okay, I've got to tune something up here. I've got to tune some of my wires up here, and I've got to really, really dial into this and hone in. But it is what it is, man. Oregon and Indiana. Let's get to that prediction real quick. Oregon is just one of those teams. You get a good win last week against a Texas Tech team who looked lethargic offensively. Okay, now I'm not taking anything away from Oregon. Defensively, they were absolutely phenomenal. And we have a ring girl on the TV. Okay, that makes sense. It's Nikki Bella. Okay, we have the College Football National Championship preview up on the big screen here at Buffalo Wild Wings. So come on down and watch it. I was curious because I thought I saw a ring girl on the football field, but it was just Nikki Bella, WWE superstar. She was holding up a belt. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Nobody caught me laughing. Okay. Now, people are going to caption this. They're going to clip that. Say Hayden was looking at Nikki Bella, a female wrestler, on the TV screen in a wrestling bikini. That's not what happened, guys. Clothed, sort of clothed. She had a crop top on, clothed. Okay, that's not something that I was doing. Okay, so just leave me alone. That wasn't a thing. But anyways, guys. So Oregon and Indiana. This is going to be a matchup that I think that Indiana, that obviously they had the upper hand. I think that a lot of people are not necessarily sleeping, but aren't necessarily giving this Oregon team a chance. And I understand why, because it has nothing to do with Oregon, maybe a little bit, but not much to do with Oregon, and all of what has to do with Indiana and what they did last week against Alabama. And it's not just that, what they did against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, what they did all year in the Big Ten at conference play. So this is just one of those games where I feel bad for Oregon, okay? I really do feel bad for Oregon, not because I think they're going to get blown out. That may happen, of course. Indiana's currently a 3.5-point favorite. I think that Indiana is just one of those teams that right now they're playing together as a team. They've met super, super well. And it's just one of those teams where the chemistry, the camaraderie, it's all there. You don't have to force that in that locker room. It's just there. Those guys, they all love each other. It's like a brotherhood. And for the way that Fernando Mendoza talks about his teammates is just incredible. He talks about his teammates like it's his brother, who's the backup to him in the quarterback position that is Alberto Mendoza. And you've seen him a few times this year. You saw him last week in the game against Alabama. You get to go in for a few drives and take the quarterback kneel, the victory formation, as some would call it. But yeah, I mean, I think that Indiana is just one of those teams that if you are matched up against them, like Oregon is, tough nuts to you, man. I hate it for you. Tough nuts to you. This is a Curt Cignetti-led team that is going to go out there. They're going to bash your heads into the ground. And Curt Cignetti reminds me of a coach who's a little more quiet, but also at the same time. Last year he was one of those guys that maybe was a little more loud. They were winning a lot. They beat the crap out of everybody, or as Curt Cignetti says, we beat the hell out of everybody that they play. And that was true. But Curt Cignetti was a little more he was a little more loud about it last year. This year he's kind of letting the team do the talking, and the result on the field is what talks. But now he's sort of quiet. Okay, this isn't the same Curt Cignetti, it seems, that we saw last year. Okay, the trash talk, yeah, you can kind of tell it's still there. Curt Cignetti's personality, yeah, trust me, it's still there. But it's not to that great magnitude that it was last year. It's not as loud as it was. So, but yeah, that's just kind of how that is. But with this game tomorrow night, I think that Indiana wins. I think the Hoosiers get it done, and they advance to the national championship game. And all praise to Curt Cignetti and what this team has done. All right, the Lord has allowed for Curt Cignetti to do some really great things. And with what Curt Cignetti has done this year, people are going to be talking about it forever. He will go down in the history books. This Indiana football team is going to go down in the history books. It's not just the college football coach. This is not just a college football coach. It is a college football team. They come together. They play at the right time. You don't have to force a team to mesh well. Sometimes you have to do that. Okay, you have to. Sometimes teams, I feel like, are forced to. That camaraderie is forced. They got to be forced to love one another. This is a team that is just. It is genuinely. You can kind of sense it is all real. None of it is fabricated. So I don't know. That's what that is, and that's how it will be. But that's who I have winning. I have Indiana and Miami in the national championship game. But a massive shout out to Ole Miss for the wonderful season that they've had, as well as Oregon. But Ole Miss they have really showed that they are a great team, and they have a great group in there. They have a great group in that facility, and you can't help but be happy for them in this very moment. So. But yeah, that's it for college football. A little college basketball talk tonight. We'll sum it up real quick. Arizona and Michigan, those guys are just phenomenal. They look great right now, and those teams are continuing to build. Much like Steel 174 and the crew over there continue to build houses all over the county. Steel 174 on Facebook. That's STEELE 174 on Facebook. The guys, you got Dawson Welch, Bobby Welch, Daniel Welch. Those are the three main guys over there. It's Steel 174, but they've got a whole crew behind them that makes sure everything is in place and everything is rolling well. Phenomenal guys over at Steel 174, so we greatly appreciate them for sponsoring this show. We've got one more show this year. one more college football show this year. We will roll into some transfer portal talk after that, but for the majority of it, we're gonna roll into a little college basketball. Haven't decided if we're gonna go live. We're gonna podcast that yet, but we will get that to you as quick as we can. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. College basketball, hot in the streets. Obviously, you have Michigan and Arizona, who are the best teams in college basketball right now. Iowa State, they're up there as well. But Michigan and Arizona, those two teams have kind of separated themselves from the pack, in my humble opinion. That's how I see those two teams right now as the greatest. If you want to look at the SEC, Vandy looking great right now, 15-16 and 0 right now. Phenomenal win last night. I think they're 15 and 0. But I don't know. Either way, they beat Alabama last night in an extremely close game, 96-90. Vandy had a great game. Mark Byington, one of the best coaches in the SEC right now. He has turned this Vandy program around from a few years ago. You had Jerry Stackhouse, who coached this Vandy team a few years ago. Obviously, he's not there anymore now. It's Coach Byington, but I know it's a little different. Bruce Pearl not with Auburn anymore now. It is Stephen Pearl. Nate Oates still leading Alabama, and Alabama is a team that looks good this year. You could argue that they're not as good as last year, which, I mean, it's going to be hard to replace Mark Sears, and Grant Nelson, two of the better players in the SEC last year. Those guys are gone, so now you kind of have to replace those guys. Not easy to replace, though. It's not easy to replace, but that's kind of how college football is going right now, man. It just is. But you got Iowa State and Michigan are just two of those teams that defensively, they kind of stand out to me. But Arizona and Michigan are the two teams that separate themselves from the pack. But yeah, that's how I see it right now. College basketball, I have Indiana and I have Miami playing in the college football playoff. And I appreciate everybody for tuning along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been the Hayden Coker Show, presented to you by Senator Les Bell. The best man that I know, Senator Les Bell, is the best man that he knows. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Y'all have a phenomenal night. Take care. And be careful. Okay, it's Thursday. There's college football on tonight, but tomorrow's Friday, so if you have work, be careful. Don't dabble too much in the alcohol tonight, in the booze, as some would say, and lay off the high-speed chicken feed. All right, y'all.